Today, when we talk about attitudes and social psychology, we are talking about evaluations. In the previous video, I suggested that attitudes or evaluations are important because they help us predict behavior, and research has actually shown us that they provide valuable information about a variety of processes, including how we visually process others, how we make the decision to vote, how we choose our friends, and even how we decide what to buy. In addition, implicit attitudes, or automatic evaluations, predict spontaneous or non-verbal behaviors during interracial interactions. Now, though most early definitions described attitudes in terms of how they were thought to influence behaviors, other definitions have actually included behavior in the definition. And in fact, one of the first uses of the word attitude in psychology was in reference to a behavior. In the 1800s, Galton defined attitudes as bodily inclination toward or away from someone. He believed he could determine how much people liked one another at a dinner party by observing how they leaned toward or away from one another. The famous tripartite theory of attitudes by Rosenberg and Hovland also argues that behavior is one component of attitudes, along with cognitions and affect. More recently, Eagley and Chaikin argued in the 1990s that attitudes consist of an evaluative and a behavioral component. Attitudes are expected to positively correlate with behaviors such that positive attitudes should be related to behaviors that approach, support, or enhance the attitude object, and negative attitudes should be related to behaviors that avoid, oppose, or hinder the object. However, in 1928, the psychologist Thurstone published an article arguing that attitudes could be measured by asking people their opinions or evaluations of people, objects, or ideas. And from there, the evaluative component of attitudes and the idea of these evaluations as attitudes that could predict behavior began to take center stage. But the relationship between attitudes and behavior isn't so simple. A classic example of the complex relationship between attitudes and behavior comes from an early study by Lapierre, who in 1934 examined the attitudes and subsequent behavior of hotel proprietors towards Chinese people. Although 92% of hotel proprietors who returned a mailed questionnaire indicated that they would refuse service to potential Chinese customers, only one out of a sample of 250 actually did refuse the business of a visiting Chinese couple. Thus, even strongly expressed negative attitudes may not be predictive of behavior. In fact, by 1969, a meta-analysis by Wicker found there was little evidence that attitudes were strong predictors of behaviors. In future videos, I will discuss how social psychologists were able to elucidate the complex relationship between attitudes defined as evaluations and behaviors. In addition, I will also discuss contemporary attempts to understand how implicit or automatic evaluations are related to behavior, and how there is a need to study that relationship with more precision. So although attitudes are important because they predict behavior, the story isn't always so simple.